come into the Sunday service and I feel good. I feel good. But then, right in the middle of it, like right about now, after the music and the prayer and the reading, I'm feeling really good. My heart is opened up to receive. So I hope that you feel the same way I do, because I have a message that you can receive right here today. So we continue this whole week, this whole month actually, but this week, we're continuing with our theme of power, soul power. Like solar power because it's summer, but we're focusing on soul power, which according to Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, in the glossary of our textbook, means this power is the energy by which everything lives. The power within us. Every one of us is tapped into, in fact, filled with this energy by which everything lives. We all have it. We're all a part of this unified oneness. It's at the depths of our soul. This power resides there, and it's the power by which everything we think, feel, say, and do is triggered into creation. It is divine energy, the divine power we are exploring this month. And Wayne Dyer, in his book, The Power of Intention, gives a portrait of a person who, in his words, is connected to the field of intention. My words, who is tapped into the universal energy by which everything lives. These individuals have 6 traits in common. And this morning we're going to look at these 6 traits and call them power attitudes, which is the name of the talk today. So we're going to call them power attitudes. So the question of the day, this day, is, are you ready to become one of those people who lives from their soul power? Yes. Yes? Yes. All right. Then hold on to your seats, because here we go. And I recommend that you write them down if you choose. Type them up, paste them, and put them around, because with all of these soul power traits that we're going to talk about comes the soul power attitude. So it's going to be like an affirmation that goes with each one that I'm going to give you. So, first trait. People living from their soul power know that the universal source, God, supplies everything they need. That's number one. God is our source. We say that all the time. Our one and only source. Very powerful. But do you really trust this to be the truth? When times look a little maybe challenging, do you really believe that God is your source? Meister Eckhart, German mystic from the late 1200s, wrote, "There is nothing else a man can do that is so beautiful as to put complete trust in God. God never failed anyone who trusted him greatly, but rather by them he does great things. And Scripture tells us, before you ask, he will answer." Catherine Ponder, a New Thought writer, especially on prosperity, calls this the prosperity secret of the ages when she writes, "God is the source of your supply. As long as you relate to the source, you will be prosperous. It is when you turn from God as the source and depend upon people and conditions for your good that you have problems. People and conditions are channels of your supply," she writes, "to be sure. But never, never, never forget that God is your source." Really. Because I know I have to work on breaking that habit of thinking that certain conditions and certain people and certain jobs are the source of my income. They are not. They are channels. And as Ponder says, very important channels by which prosperity comes into my lives. But God is the source, the only source that could possibly be. Jesus had no job, no means of support. Yet he was always taken care of. He was always taken care of. And he gave us one of the greatest prosperity teachings when he said this in his beautifully colorful way. And I know you might have heard this before, but it's so beautiful. Observe the flowers, how they grow, for they do not toil, nor do they spin. But I say to you that not even Solomon in his glory was arrayed like one of these. And if God clothed in such fashion the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow falls into the fireplace, how much more is he to you, O you of little faith? Do not be anxious about what you will eat or what you will drink. Let not your mind be disturbed by these things, for worldly people seek after these things, and your Father knows that these things are also necessary for you. But, this is the important part that Jesus said, but seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. Always turning to the source and supply of our good. That's the first trait. That's the first trait. And if you remember last week, we said the universe is conspiring for your good. And I love that. I always think of that because it really makes me feel so supported. The universe, God, is conspiring for each and every one of our aspects of good. And Holmes says, in demonstrating open conditions, the only inquiries we are to make are, do the things we want lend themselves to a constructive program? Do they express a more abundant life? This is from Ernest Holmes. Rob no one, create no one, and express a greater degree of livingness? If we are able to answer these questions affirmatively, then all the power of the universe is back of our program. If it is money, houses, automobiles, land, stocks, bonds, dresses, shirts, or shoestrings, all of which come from the same source, there can be nothing either in the law or in the spirit back of the law to deny us the right to the greater possible expressions of life. So that's the first trait. God is our... So the affirmation, the power, this is our power attitude, we're calling affirmations, to go with that first trait is, God, the source of all, supplies my all. God, the source of all, supplies my all. Second trait, people with power attitudes. They keep their thoughts on what they intend to create, not what they don't want to create. And if you remember last week, we talked about how the universe always says yes. And it says yes to our vibration, which was another way last week did the power of asking. So it's always saying yes. It's saying yes to what we don't want, if that's the vibration we're putting out there, and it's saying yes to what we do want. But many times we're not really clear about what we do want, so it's saying yes to what we don't. That's what we talked about last week, what we focused on. And if you recall, you had a mission. If you were here last week, does anyone recall the mission? Remember the smorgasbord of life? Okay, we all remember the smorgasbord. Okay, so the mission was to have a smorgasbord approach to life this week. If you saw something in your life that you didn't like, you were supposed to treat it like the Brussels sprouts on the table. I should love Brussels sprouts. I don't. On the buffet table of life, and say, "Thank you, I'll pass." Remember that? Thank you, I'll pass. You don't have to take everything that's on the buffet table onto your plate, but we do that with conditions. So the second part of the mission last week was to focus on, meaning giving your attention to speaking only about, accept, and receive that which we truly desire in our lives. This is the asking part. It's what we're focusing on. We're asking. Whether we realize it or not, we're asking. Thereby when we do that, we set up an energetic vibration to attract more of this good into our lives, or more of not so good into our lives. It's what we focus on. So, the power words here, the power attitude, our affirmation for the second trait is, I focus on my good, so that my good focuses on me. I focus on my good, so that my good is focused on me. My current affirmation that I've been using, and I'm really having great success with this affirmation. It's so powerful. It's from Emma Curtis Hopkins. We're using her work right now in our Roots class, and we're having a 2-day workshop at the end of October for sure, confirmed, on Emma Curtis Hopkins. But it's so powerful, and that is, God is my good is my God. What I love about Emma Curtis Hopkins is she takes out all the need. There is no need. I don't even have to identify what the good is. I just have to over and over, like a mantra, say them, which I've been doing, and it's really working. It's really powerful. God is my good, capital G, good. Good is my God. So again, try it. All these things I offer to you to try. Give it a shot, because it's working for me. Third, power attitude. They know, these are the people that have these traits, they know everything in their life is there for a reason, and they stay in the state of gratitude. No matter what the problem or problems seem to be, or challenged to you in your life, having that deep faith that you will get through it, because you will. We always do. We always do, but when we're in the middle of it, it feels like we're never going to get to the end of it. So by deepening in our spirituality, and that's what we're teaching here, this spirituality where we are empowering ourselves, that we create. And that's why we have the classes. That's why we have workshops. That's why we have Sunday services, so that we can inspire each other and remember. Because if we left our own little actions without any kind of spiritual nourishment, sometimes we might forget or take a nap from the spiritual truth. So the whole point of these classes and the workshops and everything that we do is to deepen our understanding of spiritual truth that lies within each and every one of us, because you can't deepen spiritual truth. You're deepening your understanding of what it really is and what your part is in it. And it's developing attitudes to learn from every experience. What can I learn from this? What am I supposed to learn from that? And being grateful. Being grateful for no matter what it is. And I've been using the analogy of my leaky roof. And I know that so many people can't wait till it's fixed, so I stopped talking about it. But it's like my challenge right now, and now I'm standing back because I have more people involved in this leaky roof than you can imagine. But the whole point is now I'm standing back and I'm observing. Oh, this is my leaky roof experience. Let's see what I'm going to learn from this. I'm learning a lot. Because I know that there is some good in here for me to learn. And it's more than just about a leaky roof. It's more about my trusting in God as my source and supply, and trusting in knowing that I have patience, that I don't have rush into anything, which I'm totally not, and see who else pops up in my life to look at the roof. It's very interesting, but the whole point is I'm laughing about it, I'm smiling about it, I'm not freaking out about it like I was the first time when I thought my whole house was falling down. I'm now knowing it's not falling down, and God is my source of supply. And so I have an attitude of gratitude. So I would encourage us to keep a gratitude journal, or go to bed, and like we learn in our foundations class, count the wins in your life for that day. Before I go to sleep every night, I think about what I have, what good that I'm grateful for that took place today. What am I grateful for? And I think of all these little things and I might not have otherwise thought of. And I think it's a great way to fall asleep. And a lot of teachings believe that when you fall asleep, you're really beginning a new day. So what a great way of starting a new day, in gratitude. High vibration. What is the law? What is the universal law going to give you back? I know with my prayer partner, before we start a whole session, we do a whole session every week, we do the wins, because we do it over computer. So we count the wins, phone and computer. So we type up all of our wins. What a great way to start anything. What am I grateful for? Deeply grateful for something. And when I look back, and I kid you not, money, having money for all the things that I want is a great blessing. Money's great. Money's great. We love money. But as I look back over my gratitude list, I see that most of the things that I've manifested are really not money related. They're really not. So it's easy to be grateful all the time. It is and it isn't. It can be challenging. When you're in the middle of something, it can be challenging to be grateful. But that's where the deepening occurs. That's when we take it to another level. It's being grateful in the middle of what feels like a catastrophe in your life, because we get lots of those. And Meister Eckhart so eloquently stated, if the only prayer, and I know you've heard this, if the only prayer you've ever heard in your whole life is thank you, that would suffice. Thank you. That's gratitude. So, words of power to affirm this power attitude. This is our affirmation for the third tree. Today I am grateful because the universe, which is God, is conspiring for my good. Today I am grateful because the universe is conspiring for my good. So we go into the fourth trait. People living from their soul power are exceptionally generous and find great pleasure in giving. Service actually is and giving comes in time, treasure, talent, all three of them. And giving, serving, serva, is actually one of the highest vibrational activities you can engage in. It really is. If you feel like things aren't flowing right, give. Go help someone out. Volunteer somewhere. It will raise your vibration. You are God in expression. You are God in expression, and God is the eternal giver. The eternal giver. Thus, it is in our true nature. That's why it feels so good to give. That's why it feels good to give. We simply are not happy and fulfilled when we're not giving of ourselves to others, either monetarily or in actual physical service. It is really, really important. We're learning this principle of giving and receiving right now in our Prosperity Plus class, which is like ongoing because it is so life, as Joe said, so life transforming. It really is, and it keeps up leveling life. So we just keep doing it. And people want to take it, and we keep doing it because that giving and receiving means that you are in the flow of life, and when you're in the flow of life, God's good can fill you. It can fill your thoughts. It can fill your vibration. And as we said, the vibration is the law of attraction. It's what pulls that good to you. Arthur Ashe said, remember him? Wow, that was a neat bit. Pull this one out of the archive. This is good, though. From what we get, we make a living. From what we give, however, we make a life. That's a good one. Yeah. Gilil Gibran wrote in The Prophet, you say I would give, but only to the deserving. The trees in your orchard say not so. They give, and they shall live, for to withhold is to perish. Nature gives abundantly, and always it replenishes itself. Because if it were to hold on to its fruit, to hold on to its leaves, it would perish. It's part of nature. It's natural to give. Give to life is the highest level of sharing. The highest level of sharing who we are, sharing our life. Giving enriches our daily life. It is as natural to us, really, as breathing. It is as natural. You see little children, what do they want to do? They want to help. They want to be in service because it's natural, it's inherent to our being. So when we stop it, we block the flow of good in our lives. Ask yourselves, in what ways might I give to live? In what ways? You can think about it. And I love this couplet written by John Bunyan. A man there was, and they called him mad. The more he gave, the more he had. And it goes right in line with the giving. The more you give, the more you will receive. Got to be in the flow. You got to be able to receive too. If you're going to give, you got to be able to receive, because there are people with certain blocks to receiving. In Buddhism, it is said that there are 3 kinds of givers. Beggarly givers, and they give only as much as they feel like, but always with hesitation. And then just the leftovers, the worst of what they have. And the underlying belief here is that there is not enough and they must hoard what they have. Then you have the friendly givers. They give what they themselves would use. They share what they have, and with less deliberation, with more open-handedness. The underlying belief here is that there will be more. It is a friendly universe. And then you have the kingly givers. Kingly. I like that word. I kept saying it over and over again. Kingly. Say it.
Kingly.
Kingly. It's a very odd word, but anyway. These are the highest level of givers, these kingly givers, that they give the best of what they have. They share spontaneously. And in the moment, without needing to have a reason or with any kind of hesitation. Giving has become natural to their conduct. The underlying belief here is that life is abundant. The universe provides in rich abundance. Life is abundant. Now here's the deal. This is the deal of how the universe works. Whatever kind of giver we are is the same kind of receiver we are. You've got to be in that flow. So if you're giving, you're going to receive because you're going to feel good. If you're holding back and holding on and clenching, you're good. You won't receive more good. It's the way the universe works. It's not because I'm saying it. It's because it's the way the principle works. And so from Luke, chapter 6, verse 38, whatever measure you are using in giving, large or small, it will be used to measure what is given back to you. It's all New Thought teachings. From which consciousness, from which of those 3 consciousnesses will you share your gifts? Story of Jim Henson. I thought this was really interesting. I thought this was great. The creator of the Muppets, maybe you know it, I didn't. He tried and tried and tried, and he could not get anyone to be interested in his Muppets. He was very discouraged, as most of us would be, disillusioned. And he heard a talk by Norman Vincent Peale. And this changed his thinking. Remember, Ernest Holmes says, change your thinking, change your life. Changed his thinking. He had been going about it the wrong way. He was trying to get people to buy his Muppets, trying to get people to buy his Muppets and to buy into the whole concept of this incredible idea that he had of Muppets. He realized that he had a gift. So he stopped, he realized he had a gift. He needed to share this gift with others, no matter how he did it. So his new approach was service. And so he started to give away his gift. He would go to the schools and put on all these shows with his Muppets for free, because now he was giving his gift to the world. And he started there. And during one of these presentations, someone came up to him afterwards and said, we're starting this new show, Sesame Street, could you do 6 to 8 weeks on it? And the rest is history. Changed his thinking, changed his life, gave instead of trying to force. How many things do we try to force to happen in our lives? It doesn't work all the time. In fact, it usually doesn't. So the words of power here attitude number 4 are, I am a kingly giver. I am a kingly giver. Then you have 5. So this is the 5th trait. They are definitely kind and loving. So the people with these power attitudes, these traits, are entirely kind and loving. David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, which we talked about the first week in August, calibrates attitudes based on a numerical scale. So if you've read that book, you understand that the 200 is like the point there. That anything calibrating that over 200 is considered to be tapping into power. Universal force of good. Under 200 is tapping into force. In his book, he had a 2-page listing, really interesting, of attitudes pairing with what they calibrated at. The ones that calibrated over 200 and under 200, the other of which doesn't. The key words in our power attitude, number 5, though, would be kind and loving. Kind and loving. These calibrate way over 200. He also talks about how do we reach the state of pure awareness. Connection. What is pure? Connection to our oneness. Really feeling the power of God within us. Being alive with it. That's the power. First, we have to have the desire to reach the state. We have to have that desire. And then have the discipline to act with constant and universal forgiveness and gentleness. Forgiving, remember, like Jesus said, 70 times 7. That means all the time. Just forgiving all the time. Without exception. Be compassionate with others and especially with ourselves, because I think sometimes we can be really hard on ourselves, judging ourselves. So being loving and kind and compassionate to ourselves. You're beautiful beings of God, of the light. Then remembering to open your heart and minds to others, to be understanding and compassionate towards many other people as a gift. It's a gift. We give this gift away and we receive back so much more. So words of power to affirm this. Here's our affirmation. I choose to approach the world with compassion, kindness, and love without exception. So I choose to approach the world with kindness, compassion, and love without exception. And last, these are the people with these traits, power attitudes. They never know enough. They never know enough. People who are connected to their soul power know that they never know enough. Do you ever feel like you reach a point where I know everything I need to know? And this is not in a negative or derogatory manner. It is in a way of we expand. Spirit expands itself by becoming more. It creates more and more life. We expand ourselves by becoming more and more of who we are. And that's how we expand and grow. That's how we do it. When we are in alignment with our divine selves, this is true for us. It's one of the reasons why we're always studying in these classes, why we offer these classes, why I'm in all those classes, because I learn each time I take a class. I expand. I become more of. And that awareness is what I want to vibrate in the universal law. So we must keep growing and expanding and enlarging our understanding of spiritual truth if we really want to be in alignment with our true self, to grow. And real quick to finish up, Ernest Holmes said, no one has ever plumbed the depths of either the conscious or the subconscious life. Because we've never really gotten there. We're never going to understand it all. In both directions, he says, we reach out to infinity. And since we cannot encompass infinity, we shall always be expanding and always enlarging our capacity to know and to experience. We are always going to have that urge to become more, to know more. So the words that go with the 6th trait are, this is the affirmation, I am open to knowing, I am open to growing. So I'll give you all 6 power attitudes or affirmations real quick here. God, number 1, God, the source of all, supplies my all. 2, focus on my good, so that my good is focused on me. 3, today I am grateful, because I believe the universe conspires for my good. 4, I am a kingly giver. 5, I choose to approach the world with compassion, kindness, and love without exception. And number 6 is, I am open to knowing, I am open to growing. And if you adopt these 6 power attitudes, then you too will be one of those people. Those people who tapped in, tuned in, and turned onto that internal power that is within each and every one of us, the divine energy that is within each and every one of us. It will guide us, it will support us, that will allow us to live a life full of joy and peace. Joy and peace, and abundance, and wholeness. And that, my friends, is soul power. And I invite you to join me along with it.